Welcome to Advanced Parallel Programming and the Law of Attraction. How to easily and effectively bring into alignment your thoughts, desires, beliefs, and actions, as well as create a positive parallel environment with those around you and the world as a whole. And now, broadcasting high atop the MacGuffin Towers in exciting Las Vegas, authors of the best-selling book, Advanced Parallel Programming and the Law of Attraction, Dr. Richard K. Nongard and R.J. Banks.
Hi, everybody. It's Robert J. Banks here, also known as R.J. Banks, or a couple other names that I don't even want to mention. But anyway, thanks for...
Rob Banks.
Rob Banks.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a good one. Because that's the way people remember me, because I say, well, what's your name? Rob Banks. I don't Rob Banks, it's just my name. But then people see me like, you're the bank robber dude. And I'm like, no, I don't, Rob Banks. It's my name. So you hear that lady laughing in the background there.
That's because we have a special guest today.
Was
I not supposed to be here yet?
Who's our special guest today?
We have Victoria Gallagher. She is the best-selling author of Practical Law of Attraction, which is a fantastic book for those of you who don't have it yet. So head on over to Amazon and get it, and I'll put a link in the show notes to Victoria's book. But Victoria's been a great friend of mine. She's also a hypnotherapist.
She also wrote the foreword to our latest book.
She did. That's right.
That's right.
She wrote the foreword to Advanced Parallel Programming and the Law of Attraction. Anyway, without further ado, Victoria, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I've actually listened to a couple of episodes myself, and you guys are doing a great job spreading the good word of Law of Attraction. And so I'm honored to be on your show, and I guess one of your first guests.
Yeah, you're actually our only guest so far. So
the only guest. Wow.
Yeah, so
I'm honored.
This podcast isn't really a guest show, but we had to have Victoria on, though.
Well, she's part of the gang, you know. She's part of it. She wrote the foreword, so she's part of the book. She's part of the LOA scene, and you have your book, The Practical Law of Attraction. That is the #1 best-selling book in the Law of Attraction right now in the universe, huh?
It still is. Yes.
That's awesome.
Book I know. It came out.
So you're buying lunch next time you come to Vegas.
Yes, I will. I will. Yeah, and it came out in, well, it's been a little over a year, like a year and 1 month since the book came out. And it was Law of Attraction, though, that I used to become and continue to be #1 bestseller. So.
You're practicing,
and a little bit of advertising dollars, doesn't it?
Sure. But you know, advertising is putting it out there in the universe. Mm-hmm. It's making an investment in the belief that it will have a payback.
It really is. I mean, without having that belief, then you're not going to do a lot of the things that are going to help you to get where you want to be.
Well, you have to teach us how to advertise our books so that we can overtake you in the
So
there are still some secrets I have to keep.
Waterboarding time. Anyway, when was it? I just had a quick question about when did you get involved with the Law of Attraction? How did you find out about it, and what inspired you to write that book?
Well, you know, the thing is, I would say that I've been involved in the Law of Attraction since I could talk. Okay, if you really think about it, we've all been involved in the Law of Attraction because we're always creating our reality, right? And but I can even go back to, you know, just being in the first grade and seeing the sixth graders put on the Wizard of Oz, and I said to myself in the first grade that when I get to be a sixth grader, I'm going to be Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz. And ultimately, I attracted that, and I created the situation. But a little bit more how I got involved in Law of Attraction was I was working in the brokerage industry for many, many years. And I kind of followed in my father's footsteps. And I reached a point where I started kind of feeling I didn't have passion for that job anymore. And I started,
just going through the motions.
Just
Get a
going through the
paycheck.
motions
Yeah.
and doing, and it just wasn't fun anymore. So I sought out personal development. And so through going through a lot of these classes, they taught us about, your thoughts becoming things. And this is well before The Secret ever came out. And so during that, during those classes, we did a lot of closed eye techniques. And it was during that time
Self-hypnosis, meditation, tools like that.
Exactly. But, they just called it closed eye techniques in that time. And so I knew I set out a goal, because like I said earlier on that I wanted to play Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. I always knew that whatever I set my mind on, I can accomplish that. I always just knew that from that taught me in the very, very early ages that whatever I set my mind on, I can achieve. And so, and it takes a lot of discipline to really set your mind on
That's
something.
what I was going to ask you. Is it possible for our listeners who are saying, but I didn't get the part in 6th grade. I was rejected. Is it possible for the average person to step into abundance and create their reality like you did? Or is this?
Absolutely. It's possible for anybody, but it takes alignment. And that's why I fast forward to a year ago. That's why I wrote the book, Practical Law of Attraction, because, we've had some books and some movies come out, and it makes Law of Attraction seem like all you need to do is sit on your beanbag chair and close your eyes, and poof, you're going to have a Mercedes sitting out in your garage when you.
I sat there on my couch and waited for that $1 million pile of $1 million money to appear in my front room, but it never did.
Exactly. And so I began, and I had been, it's been a study for the last 20 years, ever since I became a hypnotist, that, it's just been a study of mine for all this time. Like, well, what is it that makes people be able to attract their reality? Is it just your thoughts? Is it just your feelings? Is it just, wishing for something hard enough? Is it your imagination? And what I came to the conclusion of is that there's actually a number of moving parts. There's a number of conditions that ultimately you need to be in alignment with. If you are taking lots and lots of action on something, and a lot of people take action on things that they think that they should be doing because society tells us you should be doing that. This is what you should be doing. But you don't have necessarily, that's not lined up with what you really, really desire down deep inside, then you're probably not going to be manifesting the life of your dreams.
It sounds like when you were in the brokerage industry, you were taking the actions, you were making the phone calls, you were showing up at 8 a.m, but your heart wasn't in it, and so
my heart wasn't in it. I didn't have the desire to. I had sort of a fake desire because I wanted to please my dad.
That's what we're programmed to do. We are so programmed to what is good, what is not good, what makes us happy, what doesn't make it. And, we're not a cookie cutter society, but that's kind of what they try to make us, I guess, that this is what's going to make you happy. As long as you sit there and listen to that, and it's all for profiteers, they're all saying this. So, I was just having a conversation with my neighbors out there where we were talking about back in the old days, the homeopathic ways that our parents and our grandparents and stuff, they used to, for I could break off some cedar, boil it, and make some cedar tea, and that'll get rid of all the stuff in all that stuff. But we have been programmed and brainwashed now from the pharmaceutical companies that the only way to be cured or to stop something or to control is through their drugs. And it all just has nothing to do with money, and it just. Anyway, I got on my soapbox for a second. I'm off now.
No, it's fine. But, that's a limiting belief that many people have. And that's actually one of the conditions. So I kind of realized as I was, going through this process of figuring out what is it that really makes the law of attraction work. And it's not like what people typically think. It's not magic. You know, a lot of people, like, they think of this word manifesting like it's just gonna, it's just gonna be an instantaneous gratification, and it's just not true. There are, I came up with 8 conditions that I believe absolutely need to be in place. And this is what makes it practical. This is what actually gives you a sense of, I am absolutely in control of my life. And that's what I believe the law of attraction really is you attract to you whatever you put your attention, energy, and focus on. And so, but that's easier said than done, because focus is not just what you're focusing on with your thoughts. It's not just, I am manifesting my dream home, but it's how you're imagining. It's you're using your imagination. It's, what are you thinking? What are the affirmations that you're giving yourself? How are you feeling? You could be thinking one thing, but your energy vibration is telling you that you don't really feel that. And if you really want to know what you actually believe about something, you need to tune into how you actually feel. Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling scared? Are you feeling fear? Are you feeling, what is the vibe that you're sending off? And this vibration is, one of the big pieces of the puzzle of manifesting, because we put out an energy, and that energy is one of the things that attracts the right people, the right situations, the right circumstances to us. And, so you have, it starts with your desire, and then you have your thoughts, your imagination, your feelings, your belief, your creative attraction, which is, the creative attraction is sort of a phrase that I coined that ultimately means it's that you're tuned into your intuition and you're receiving and allowing information to come in from what I call the superconscious mind. Other people might refer to it as God. Other people might refer to it as the
Creator.
Infinite intelligence,
Right.
the universe, whatever.
Higher intelligence.
But that's where a lot of our ideas come from. And so we have to be able to tune into that.
I think in that area, a lot of people, they haven't creatively thought about what the infinite possibilities are. So their limiting belief is, well, I can only have a big house here in Las Vegas. And the reality is, it actually isn't about a house. It's really about a home. And the home will be the house that they're happiest in, not the building. And so they haven't considered the other possibilities that they might have. And the creative energy lets them decide that maybe the way to manifest abundance is to be seeing the world in that RV.
Yes.
Which is the
so
opposite
true.
of what they ever thought to truly find happiness.
It's so true. And we have this fixed way of thinking about things that we have to be able to let go of, because that is one of the biggest blocks to manifesting, is having an idea of the how we're going to manifest what we desire. And we have, this idea of perhaps say that we want to manifest, like I think you were talking about $1 million. All right. So, but why do you want to manifest $1 million? What's that going to do for you? Because it's not.
We always is like, what do you want? It's like $1 million in a Mercedes Benz. It seems to always be that. But that reminds me, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just have a question. That you said something a few minutes ago, but you're coming back around to it when we talk about figure out what it is that you want and what it truly is in your heart that you desire. So in these days and age, with all this advertising and all these people telling you what you need and what you want and what you'll look good in, we've all been brainwashed. So how does one differentiate the ego-driven, I want this just because it's cool, against the I desire this
because that's what the heart needs.
Because that's what the heart needs and wants. How does one differentiate between that to make that definitive list of true heartfelt desires?
Yes, and that's such a good question, because it is true. We've got our heartfelt desire, which we're not really in touch with, and we've got our earthly, thinking desires.
I call it the ego-driven desires.
Absolutely.
Because it's like, ooh, I'll look hot in a Mercedes, and ooh, if I had those stilettos and that purse, and I'm, not me personally, but you know what I'm saying.
So I think one of the clues that I talk about in my book that helps you to begin to get in touch with and identify what you desire, and it's a little bit counterintuitive, but we want to take a look at what we are complaining about. I find that when we have something that we don't like that's happening around us, this is our own internal stimulus that's saying, I don't like that, I don't want that to happen, and all the negative stuff, because we have this like negativity bias in our brains that causes us to kind of be able to focus on what we don't like. When we tune into and we start to acknowledge the things that we don't like, that is a clue into what we do like. So I have a process where I actually have people just pick an area of their life, whether it be in the area of wealth, health, relationship, love, career, whatever it is. And we do what we call the complaint game. And I just give people 5 minutes or so just to chat, just to let it go and just complain. And the other person that they're talking to is a scribe, so they could just complain at will without having to focus on, I got to write this down, my good penmanship. And the scribe will take notes and write down a list of all the complaints. And so they have about 5 minutes to go ahead and just complain about everything. And so then they take their complaints, their list of their 10, top 10 complaints, and they turn those into their preferences. Okay. Now, when we, so we've converted these complaints into their preferences. And once they look at these preferences, they look at maybe the top couple of preferences, and they look at the words. Can you
go into a little bit more about how to convert a complaint into a preference?
Yeah, give me a complaint.
I'm blind.
The complaint is, I don't know. Let's go with that.
Gas prices are too high.
They're too low right now. Actually, the lowest they've ever been.
Yeah, right now they are pretty low.
Yeah, we all attracted low gas prices. But, maybe frustration. I don't like my job. I come home and my spouse isn't friendly, and I just want to sleep, and I toss and turn all night. Those are my complaints.
Okay, well, that's about 5 complaints there. So let's just go with one of those complaints, which is I don't like my job. So what do you want instead? What would you, if you didn't, what would you want?
Right. Well, in this example, since I actually love my job, I've been doing it for 30 years. Yeah,
but just pretend you're Joe, don't like his job guy.
I had a job at Newspaper Printing Corp where I printed newspapers in the middle of the night. My ideal job would be a shift that didn't ruin my health. My ideal job would be one where my boss wasn't a jerk. My ideal job would be one where I made more money.
And you were happy with what you did.
Okay, so so something where, all right, so your ideal job, and one of the key things that you said there is your ideal job would be where your boss wasn't a jerk. But now what the universe hears when you say my boss wasn't a jerk. What do you think the universe hears when you say that?
My boss is a jerk.
where the boss is a jerk. So we're so tuned into those negative key phrases, and we want to start to actually focus on and get in touch with, like, well, what do you really want, and be willing to actually look at that. So now we start to identify the thing that you do want instead. You want a job that you feel passionate about, that, and you start to drill that down into,
people
like,
recognize my contribution.
Yes. So then what we do is we make a list of preferences like that. I am, I'm willing to be open to the possibility of a job where my where my talents are recognized, my contributions are recognized. And then you actually key in on the fact that what you really want, you said you want to be recognized for your contribution. That's what you really want. And so we've been able to now identify, it's not that, just from a complaint, I don't like my job, to, my desire is to be recognized for my contribution. That doesn't even necessarily mean that it's a job, but what we
I was going to say, I could have a job that was mundane with a boss who wasn't friendly, but I could meet my need for recognition by getting involved in the community and maybe serving on a board, or by helping others.
Yeah. And so you notice how you feel when you've now gotten in touch with what it is that is actually the deeper desire.
And I wasn't even looking for a job, and now I'm actually pretty excited because I'm excited to reach out to my community.
Exactly. You want to be recognized for your contribution. And then you start to ask yourself, why do you want that? What is that going to do for you to be recognized for your contribution? And you will land ultimately, as you continue to ask yourself, what does that do for me emotionally? What does that do for me? And when you begin to have that answer, and you just continue to ask yourself, why?
I love
now you have stumbled upon your desire.
Sure.
Stumbled upon your desire. I think you guys are frozen.
Yeah, I think we froze up for a second on our Zoom connection.
Yeah, you're good now.
But
we're good.
There are so many things in your book and so many things in the workshops that you teach. And we wanted to introduce those who are maybe in our audience who don't know you. You have a podcast. What is the title of your podcast? Where can people find you?
Yeah, the podcast is called The Power of Your Mind Podcast.
By the way, it's the #1 podcast in the LOA arena as well, isn't it?
For now. Dun, dun, dun.
I don't know if it's the #1, but definitely under normal circumstances. Today we're having a interesting thing with Apple, which should probably be figured out by the time this airs. But normally, if you type in the word hypnosis or you type in the word law of attraction, my podcast generally comes up as, like, somewhere in the top 4. So it's been an ongoing thing. I love being #1. Yeah, and notice that I have a need to be recognized for my contribution. I have a need to, and so I say things like that. I love being #1. I love being bestseller. I love being, and I continue to express my gratitude for these things, because without, there's a perfectly good reason, though, for wanting to be #1 bestseller. Why? So more people can find my book and apply these skills to their lives, and more people can get in touch with what they truly want and learn how to manifest it and follow the 8 manifesting conditions and get themselves into alignment. And so getting into alignment is like doing these little exercises. Like I just went through the one exercise with you on getting clear on what your desire is. Then there's many other different exercises that are available in the book that will help you to get clear on how you need to be thinking, how to clear one of the biggest reasons why we don't have what we want is because we don't believe that we can actually attract it. I mean, so many people like, I want to win the lottery. Well, do you really believe that you're going to win $500 million in the lottery? I mean, most people would have a hard time really at the deepest level believing that. But once you're completely in alignment with every one of these conditions, manifesting is instant.
Right.
And
it doesn't matter if you want to manifest $1 or $1 million. It makes no difference to the universe.
We manifest we're manifesting instantaneously all the time.
And that's, that's another part of the limiting belief that, excuse me, that a lot of people, it's like, I just want to manifest maybe $500 just so I can get these bills paid off. To the universe, it doesn't matter. It's like, ask for $1 million. It doesn't matter. But this is our own limiting beliefs in here.
And I've discovered when we ask for the $1 million, but work for what's most important to us, we may or may not get the $1 million, but we got what we wanted. And I think on a metaphysical level, it makes it more likely we'll actually get the $1 million.
Yep.
And you want to hear something crazy? A lot of it's just with the desire, part one, desire. I also have people set an intention and create an intention statement. And so part of it was just kind of funny because I'm on this podcast here, but I haven't been on a lot of podcasts recently, and it was only say in the last week that I sat down and I said, what are my, I'm going to create a daily dozen things to do. Find people to be on my podcast was one of them. Meditate every day is another one of them. Write in my gratitude journal is another one of them. They were a combination of personal things and business things. And one of them was find podcasts to be a guest on, because I've been focusing on getting people to be a guest on my podcast, but I haven't focused as much on being a guest on other people's podcasts. And, I have not even put it out there, like physically, like I have not asked to be a guest on anybody's podcast. I've just been getting people out of the blue saying, we want you to be on our podcast. And I didn't even ask anyone. I didn't even do what I said I was going to do.
You manifested our podcast so you could be on it. Right. We thank you very much.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
We've been talking to Victoria Gallagher today. She's the author of the #1 best-selling book, The Practical Law of Attraction. She's the host of her awesome podcast. What's the name of the podcast?
Power of Your Mind.
And you can find her at, I think, one of the greatest hypnosis websites ever built, hyptalk.com, HYPTALK.com. And that is I send people there all the time, by the way, Victoria. I said,
oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, I don't really have any downloadable sessions. I mean, I have a few, but that's not my business or my niche. So people say, I need a session for weight loss, or I need a session for smoking, or I need a session for whatever. And so I say, well, go over to Victoria's site at hyptalk.com, because she's got a bazillion self-hypnosis and meditation recordings.
I do.
Victoria, thanks for being our guest today. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And thank you.
So I give you the honors of...
same time, same channel, same station.
Oh, you come on, start again. You can do much better than that. You've been listening to the
365 LOA podcast. Tune in next time at the same station, same place, same location for another exciting episode of Manifesting Abundance in Every Aspect of Your Life. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now. You've been listening to 365 LOA with Dr. Richard Nongard and RJ Banks. For additional information, including free downloads, or to send them an email, visit 365LOA.com. That's 365LOA.com.